kings who sold their souls to the devil. The truth about monarchies stained with Satanism and conspiracy. Kings who were supposed to rule in God's name were actually involved in demonic rituals and dark organizations behind monarchies. There may have been a contradiction between faith and power. Throughout history, kings have been regarded as chosen by God, models for the people, and sacred beings. However, in reality, there exists another untold story behind monarchies. Records and testimonies suggesting that royalty and ruling classes were connected to secret societies, pagan rituals, and even Satanism and devil worship are scattered across various regions. This is not merely urban legend, but may have been a practical conspiracy aimed at maintaining and expanding power and controlling the masses. In medieval Europe, Islamic regions, and Eastern dynasties, where kings were considered God's representatives, the legitimacy of power was supported by religion. However, when that religious legitimacy was questioned, or when those who threatened it appeared, kings often reached for other powers. Those other powers were sometimes alchemy, esoteric teachings, demon summoning, black magic, that is, forbidden knowledge that should have been denied publicly. This is because politics is the art of invisible control, and those who manipulate invisible forces can become true rulers. Moreover, demonic was not merely metaphorical. There were cases with ritual and organizational backgrounds, and it has been revealed that several dynasties and monarchs were deeply involved with secret societies. King Philip IV of France and the Knights Templar, fabricated conspiracy or something more. In 1307, King Philip IV of France suddenly suppressed the Knights Templar. The members were accused of devil worship, homosexual rituals, worship of pagan and other crimes, with hundreds arrested, tortured, and executed. However, this suppression is considered by many historians to be a conspiracy by King Philip. The king was in financial difficulty and made false accusations to confiscate the Knights Templars' assets. In other words, the king himself used the card of Satanism accusations as a political tool. Ironically, it could be said that the king who condemned Satanism was himself executing the most diabolical schemes. Elizabeth Báthory, the real blood countess and demonic rituals. Hungarian noble and great lord of Transylvania. Elizabeth Báthory has the terrifying legend of bathing in virgin blood to preserve her youth. The victims are said to number over 600. And her castle was called a house of sacrifice. However, this legend may have been a stratagem by the Habsburg family, who considered the Báthory family political enemies, and the satanic descriptions may have been later propaganda. In other words, here too, the image of the devil was used in power struggles between monarchies. King George IV of England and Freemasonry. The intersection of secret societies and royalty. From the 18th century onward, the British royal family is known to have had multiple kings as high-ranking members of Freemasonry. Particularly, George IV served as Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of England, representing one of the few examples where monarchy and secret societies were openly connected. While Freemasonry had aspects of a charitable organization, its internal rituals incorporated esoteric symbols and astral worship, making it an entity that deviated from religious orthodoxy. Yet the royal family accepted this and even actively participated. This fact tells us that an invisible ideological community existed behind royal power. Roman Emperor Nero and reverse ritual politics. Emperor Nero is known as a persecutor of Christians, but rumors of Hecate worship and secret rituals in his court never ceased. The Golden House, built after the fire, was described not so much as a temple, but as an arena of magic, and there are signs that he presented himself as a ruler of darkness, rather than as a sun god. One reason Nero is considered a mad emperor is that his political actions idealized reverse ritual order, that is, governance through destruction rather than divine order. This too can be considered an example of royal power being connected to demonic symbols. Conclusion: the essence of rule lies in the unseen, and that unseen rule was sometimes demonic. When we look back at the history of monarchies, we are often drawn to bright images such as God's representatives, noble bloodlines, and protectors of the people. However, behind these, there was rule through fear and ritual, secrets and symbols, and sometimes forbidden powers. Satanism does not necessarily mean only black masses or sacrifices. In ruling structures, the system itself of deceiving the people and moving society through invisible order can be called a kind of demonic structure. Therefore, we should ask on whose blood and darkness is the crown's brilliant shine built? Monarchy was not a blessed order, but a world that the chosen would protect, by any means necessary. There was a cold reality where even faith was utilized. Note this translation presents theories and interpretations that are largely speculative, and not supported by mainstream historical scholarship. Many of the claims about historical figures should be understood as conspiracy theories, rather than established historical facts.